I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. And this is Texas, the issue is.
Unlike any legislative session in recent Texas history, the odds of carving out a foothold for casino gambling in the Lone Star State have improved dramatically. This week we talk in depth with Houston State Senator Carol Alvarado, who's leading the fight to give voters the final say. Casino gambling, why now?
I think it's long overdue, Greg. I think Texans are ready. Their appetite is wet, it's ready, and overwhelmingly we've seen polling that would show that it would pass, but we have to get there. We know that this is more than just about gaming. It's about creating a destination, a resort.
Is there an economic advantage?
Tremendous. I can't think of anything else that we can do that would boost the economy the way this would. You're talking 185,000 jobs, direct and indirect, construction, and then once it is ongoing and the 4 casinos are up, you're over 70,000 jobs. So it would be a boost to our economy, and it diversifies our economy. I think we should always be reinventing ourselves. How can we diversify the Texas economy?
Senator, you have expressed frustration watching tens, hundreds of billions of dollars go out of the state to gaming elsewhere.
And we're talking about casinos that would have to have a hotel component, a 4 or 5-star hotel, restaurants and shops, venues for conferences and conventions. This is not setting up a blackjack table or putting a slot machine in a convenience store or a bar. It would be very limited for casinos in Texas, and they would be heavily regulated. The license holders would have to have a lot of money to put up some type of operation like that meets all that criteria.
You guys are flush right now with money. Does that hurt, the fact that we have such a large surplus and the state can do without that revenue, at least in this biennium?
This has never been about how can we stuff the state's coffers. So take that off the table. But it's about the future of Texas. And again, just continuing to look for ways to boost our economy, to diversify our economy.
Okay, brass tacks. I would expect you were encouraged to hear Speaker Phelan voice some support.
Yes.
The governor say he's willing to listen. And at least not a heck no from Lieutenant Governor Patrick. Let's talk, how do you make this happen?
Making people comfortable that we're not approving gaming, but you're simply allowing Texans to vote.
Scores of lobbyists pushing this. Are they making, I guess, what would be persuasive arguments when they meet with lawmakers?
I think so. They all have their assignments and members that they're talking to. And as you know, some of the folks last session, they ran ads on TV. They had a really effective campaign awareness going on in the media. So that has certainly gotten attention. And then you have other things that are in play, but we're staying in our lane. You have the sports betting going on, and that's already happening. But I think we should, legalize that, just like you have in gaming. You have these private clubs, you have these game rooms that a lot of our constituents have complained about, and trying to get them shut down because they invite a lot of traffic and negativity and crime activity in neighborhoods. So I think if we had these nicely regulated casinos, that could put an end to a lot of that.
Hours after we spoke to Senator Alvarado, polling released by the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs found 75% of Texans surveyed support destination casinos in the Lone Star State.
I think Texans deserve the right to vote on it because they're traveling to so many other states nearby or away, further away, to gamble. Texans love to gamble.
Okay, guys, my one-word description at this moment in the process is vigorous. Rudy, what's your word?
Sounds like a bowl of goulash there, Greg. My word is dicey, not to be confused with all the ice that we've had for the past few days.
All right, Stephen, how about you? One word.
I'm not good with all these betting terms, but I'm going to say edge. I'll explain on the other end.
All right, there you have it. Will Texas actually roll the dice on casino gambling? The Fox Texas Trio will be back to tackle that question after the break. Welcome back. The issue is casino gambling and whether lawmakers in Austin will allow Texans to place their bets, so to speak, at the ballot box in November. Stephen, that hobby poll number is pretty impressive, with 3 out of 4 Texans giving the green light to Alvarado's measure. Did you find her pitch persuasive?
I think it is, and I'll use a betting term, edge, which means coming into this, I think the lawmakers who are pushing for this already have an edge. There's a public appetite for it, of course, and you can look and see that some lawmakers are also being willing to listen to this. And the question is letting it go to the voters. If it goes to the voters, of course, the polling shows that it will likely pass. This isn't your grandfather's Texas legislature because it's 2023. Now, some of those grandfathers are still the ones that are making the laws, but they are more tolerant. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think there's an edge. There's a public appetite for it. Even though Texas has a bunch of extra money, why not have more money? And so I think this is something that could pass.
All right, Rudy, Republicans in the Texas leadership, particularly Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, have had no problem ignoring super majorities of public opinion in the past. Marijuana legalization and abortion ban exceptions, just to name 2. Will casino gambling ultimately run into the same conservative brick wall?
Greg, I think that those who are going to push back against public opinion polls, like me, love to question who's doing the poll, right? And how are the poll questions really written? Now, granted, I know most of the big polling outfits that are looking at this gambling issue have shown that there is support for expansion. But the most accurate poll, of course, is the ballot box. Of course, that also depends on the turnout, right? So I think that the political maneuvering ramps up. Those who will try to bury the gambling bill in committee will probably say that the polls are not true. It's not a true reflection and not a true accounting of public opinion. Greg?
Stephen, the casino pitch this year seems to me much more nuanced, with the number of cities limited to 4, each in separate cities, and the high-end resort-style amenities as a rock-solid requirement. Could that strategy reel in some of the fence sitters?
Well, a lot of people, some people may say not in my backyard, right? You may not want it in a more rural area that may have more conservative leadership, but you have it in your large areas like a Dallas, a Houston, a San Antonio, and Austin. And so I think the details are going to get grinded out. I really do think we're going to have some progress on this. It's just a matter of what the final product will look like. Now, having 4 and talking about, the senator saying heavily regulated, the regulations is going to be what's going to win over some Republicans who may be on the fence about this from maybe a moral standpoint.
Rudy, this push for casinos amounts to a full lobbyist employment act at the state capitol. Do you think the onslaught of persuasive argumentation and, if we're being real, campaign donations ultimately will play a role?
Greg, some of the high rollers have already dug deep into their pockets. A lot of pre-election contributions were made. And, of course, some of the big players are helping help pay for the governor's recent inauguration events. I think the wild card lobbyists and all this will be from those who represent areas left out of Alvarado's big 4 destinations. Places like Corpus, South Padre, Horseshoe Bay, just west of Austin, Texarkana, Beaumont, El Paso, and even little old Wichita Falls. They could want to get dealed into this thing, and things could get dicey, which is why that was my word.
Stephen, real quick here, one argument made to lawmakers I've heard is pretty simple and goes, you may not support gambling personally, but shouldn't that be a decision each Texan makes for themselves at the ballot box?
Right, quickly, at the end of the day, it depends on what type of lawmaker you are. Some lawmakers say, I'm representing the people who elected me to office, and others, you want to be a reflection of the community that you represent. So, in short, why not just let voters decide?
Hey everybody, it's early February. Thumbs up or thumbs down by the end of the session for casino gambling?
My horseshoe says even money, but it could go bad.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. To see this interview and others, go to our Fox Stations YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going by interacting with us on our social media pages.
Next week after the Super Bowl, we bring back former Governor Rick Perry. He's another player that's betting on this year's legislature expanding gambling. But his issue, destination, is on online betting. See you then, and don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.